The biggest thing that I do is I listen.
Mm.
A lot of people, and when they're making funeral arrangements, will come in with a form and they'll fill out their form. And I always come in with a blank sheet of paper. And we sit down and we talk with the family about, tell me about your loved one. Tell me who John was. What did he like to do? What do you remember about him? If John's widow is there, I'll say, how did you guys meet? And it's surprising how many times the children have never heard the story about how their parents met.
Mm.
And it just opens up a whole different atmosphere and a whole different dialogue when you start asking those kind of questions and get people talking about who the person really was.
So how do you think about like balancing like sadness and happiness like in a funeral? Like are you like searching for like a some sort of a toggle between those two things? Maybe talk me through that.
You kind of have to have both. When you're early in grief, the inclines and the declines are steep.
Mhm.
And so, as we're looking at a funeral, there needs to be a good balance. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to share stories that are sad. And that's one of the things that we start when we do the arrangement conference with them. And that's why I spend time asking open ended questions, because I want them to be able to laugh. And if they haven't laughed, I'll ask them, when was the last time you guys all laughed together? And it gives them permission that it's, in the next few days, it's okay to share stories that make you laugh. That's normal. There's going to be a lot more tears than there are laughter, but allowing them the permission to bring in some laughter, inviting people to speak at the funeral and share some of those humorous stories, some of those meaningful stories, some of the things that the person did that really left a lasting impact, is a way of producing that kind of a balance.
Mm.
Anybody who's working in hospitality, and funeral service falls under that level of hospitality, we're doing a lot of those same type of events. You have to pay attention to the things that are said offhand.
Yeah.
Usually the things that are said offhand are the most important things. And I do a lot of training with people that are new to the industry, and particularly those that are aged 20 to 35,
Mhm.
in developing those people skills, developing the ability to sit in a room and really read the room, to understand the body language, to understand the unspoken things that are going on. And that's a skill that's unfortunately lacking in that particular age group, because at the time that we naturally developed those skills. That's at age anywhere from age 13 to 18. We're now handing people a cell phone.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And they're spending their time, instead of looking at people, they're looking at a screen. And so they don't get the context of the dynamics of a room full of people and what's going on. And I was really fortunate growing up. I come from two very large families. On my mother's side, there were 10 kids. On my dad's, there were 5. And every other Sunday, we would go to the different home for Sunday dinner.
Mm.
The dynamics were very different with the two families, but that's another story altogether. But just watching those adults and the way they interacted and the way the body language flowed, and you learn so much. And even to this day, when I'm sitting with a room full of people, I can assign those personality types to the people in the room and get a pretty good understanding of how they're going to react in different situations. But that's not a skill that's being learned anymore. And so I go in a lot of times and I'm actively having to teach these folks how to engage people, how to see the things that aren't being said.
Mhm.
You can, imagine we're sitting around a conference table with a family who's grieving, and they're making plans for their dad's funeral, and the brothers and sisters don't get along. And so you've got people there who normally don't want to be in the same room are now having to sit around a table and make decisions.
Mm.
And if you're not paying attention as the person who's helping them, you miss out on that. And you don't understand the dynamics that these two people should not be sitting next to each other because they don't get along.
Mhm.
You don't understand that the person with their arms crossed in the corner of the room has got something to say, but hasn't been given permission to open their mouth yet. And so you call on them and you ask them to add to the conversation so that they don't walk away at the end and be totally unheard.
Mm,
But those are skills that it's essential for people in our profession to learn.
mm,
We have about 3 minutes from the time we sit down with the family to establish that kind of trust, to establish some ability to communicate. And if we miss that window of 3 minutes, we spend the rest of the time we're working with them trying to get that back. I spend a lot of time talking about leadership and leadership development. And we talk about the fact that when you're thrust into a situation like that, those leadership skills don't automatically show up.
mm,
You have to have learned them, you have to have practiced them, and made them part of your soul before you get to that moment. But that time that you spend with people, being present with them, making them feel valued, was the first inkling of leadership skills that I learned. That being present, giving somebody your undivided attention and your time. And above all other things that we lack today, particularly with young people coming into the workforce, is that ability to be present because we're constantly being pulled away from that.
mhm,
Even if we put our cell phones on silent, that jiggle in our pocket takes us out of the moment.
mhm.
And so we have to actively be aware that if we're going to be present with the people that we're in the room with, we have to learn how to ignore those kind of miscues. We have to be where our feet are. So if you're at home with your family, that's the most important thing right now.
Mhm.
That family that's in front of you. If you're at work, the people that you're working with, they're the most important people at the time. If you're at church, that's the most important thing that you're doing right then. So having that balance and having the ability to stay in that moment and put out all other distractions is a skill that is sadly lacking, but is crucial for leadership. If you're not sitting there and paying attention, if you don't understand what's going on in the room, people sense it,
Mhm.
and they will not follow somebody who's not listening to them, feels that the things that are outside of that room are more important. They will find that other things are more important to them as well.
Mm, yeah, and
But
that's hard, especially if you know, rise the ranks in a business and you go, "Man, I got, like, so many things that I'm trying to think about," and it's very easy to say, like, let me think about that later. I don't know, I'm not sure," and move
yeah,
on.
but you, as a successful businessman, you begin to realize that when I divide my attention, I'm not doing well at either thing.
Mhm,
And so it's better off to focus on the one thing and come back to the other one later
mhm.
and give it its full attention. And you actually save time doing that because you're not having to redo and rethink and reset all the time to figure out where was I on that project?
Yeah.
Where was I with that conversation? You finish the conversation, you finish that meeting, and then you move on to the next thing. Um, but that's hard for people to understand that that's important. Um, it's essential to being successful and to use your time wisely. And when we look at the greatest equalizers, it's not money, it's time.
Mhm.
Uh, and even knowledge isn't a commodity anymore because we all have access to artificial intelligence, we have access to the internet. So knowledge is available to everyone who has access.
Mhm.
The people skills are not. You have to practice them.
It's nice when I talk to people about leadership because they kind of will come and start converging on the same topics, one of which you hit on,
Yes.
you know, servant leadership, presence, you know, getting to know your people, caring about your people. Like all of those factors of leadership seem to be things that I hear repeated from a lot of people who are smart and have had a lot of
And
experience.
one of them that oftentimes falls off that I think is extremely important is mentorship.
Okay.
Um, because we can be the best leaders in the world, but if we don't train the next generation, what have we really done? We really haven't done a whole lot. So if we want to build a legacy, if we want to create something that has a lasting impact on the world, we have to spend the time and invest in the next generation. And we have to have the skills and the patience to help them fail and succeed and pick them up again and help them grow into being the fine leaders of tomorrow.
Mhm. Okay, one last question then. Tell me about how a funeral guy gets into the cookie business.
Well, that started out of my consulting company when I was working with funeral homes.
Okay.
And one of the things that's very important for any business is to say thank you to your customers.
Okay.
And we all do that very poorly.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter which industry I'm looking at, none of them know how to say thank you to their customers. And so when I was talking to him, I said, it's simple. All you have to do is bake a dozen cookies and send them off to them.
Mm.
Well, I don't have time to do that. I said, well, let me do it for you. And that's literally how my cookie company started. I started sending a dozen cookies to this funeral home's customers. They would tell me who they had served the previous week. We'd send a dozen cookies off to them.
Mm.
And that connection of food and establishing a relationship with somebody is unlike any other connection you make.
Mm.
And I've worked with realtors, I've worked with heating and cooling companies, I've worked with mortgage companies, and they all tell me the same thing. We've done 100 other different things in terms of trying to say thank you. We've sent cards, we've sent flowers, we've sent you name it. They've sent it out. They've sent coffee mugs. But when they started sending cookies, their customers, instead of just accepting it, started thanking them for the thank you gift
Mm.
and started referring people, saying, you want to call these people because a month afterwards, they didn't forget us. They sent us cookies.
Mm.
Now, that's a small thing, but it's a huge impact because the connection for the funeral home or for the business didn't end when the bill was paid. It continues. And that just remembering somebody with something like cookies is huge. It arrives at their door, they weren't expecting it. And particularly in the funeral industry where it's been a sad event usually,
Mm-hmm.
it brings a smile.
Mm.
And if you can bring a smile to somebody, and that's one of the things I always tell my drivers, I said, we deliver smiles every day. And it's wonderful after a year after years of working in funeral homes where it's sad. There's nothing better than delivering a smile.
Mm.